But like I said, we have a lot to cover, so we just need to get
Get
started.
started.
Yep.
Okay, I'll start us off. Hey, you guys, my name is Deb Evans, and I'm a coach here at Tailored. And joining me is our awesome co-founder, founder, I guess. Russell, are you co-founder, founder? You're
I'm
co-founder. And running things behind the scenes, we've got Mary and Ashley. She's a coach from Ireland. And we also have Kavina Wilson, who is our expert on social media, and she's joining us from Oklahoma City. And we're excited to be with you guys, and we're looking forward to this next hour where we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of social media in fundraising. We're going to give you some best practice guidelines and some tips that you can implement over this next year by discussing how not to use social media, how to use social media, tips for creating an online community, content do's and don'ts. So lots of stuff that we're going to cover today. And if you've never experienced working with a tailored coach, or if you're just not sure how working with a tailored coach would help you to meet your funding goals, we're offering a free 30-minute coaching session with one of our coaches, Benny. And all you need to do is click on the link in the chat to schedule a time, and Marianne's going to put that link in there. So during the call, you and Benny can work together to identify what's holding you back from getting more funding, as well as discover new ways that you can increase your funding, including, if you want, ways to incorporate what you've learned today about social media. So if you've never worked with a tailored coach and you want to explore that option, please go ahead and click on that link to schedule that meeting with Benny. And throughout the webinar, as always, we want to hear from you guys. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat button, and this is where you can tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and put any other comments that you want to share with us. We learn from one another, so if you have any tips, feel free to share those as well. Please make sure that you're selecting either everyone or all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your comments. And the other button that I want to draw your attention to is the Q&A button. So if at any time you've got a question about social media, don't put it in the chat, put it in the Q&A box, and that way we can make sure we can get to all of your questions. So like we said, this is a live webinar. We want to learn from each other, so ask as many questions as you want to. We've got a lot to cover, so we may not get to them in the body of the webinar, but we will do our best to try to get them answered either live. Sometimes we might do it via text in the Q&A box, or we'll stay on as long as we need to get everybody's questions answered. So Russell, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, so social media is a fantastic way to build and maintain relationships. So as a ministry leader or missionary, knowing how to engage your current and potential partners on social media is really kind of a must-have skill. And having a solid strategy for connecting with them online is critical to the sustainability and growth of your work. Utilizing social media as a ministry worker fulfills one of the greatest challenges international workers face: real-time communication about what God is doing on the field. So if your organization sends physical newsletters for you, it usually requires they be written weeks before they reach your partners. So social media provides the capability of real-time updates that transport your partners into the action on the field. And while there is the temptation to see this primarily as a faster way to beef up financial support, kingdom work is about the relationship and communicating what God is up to through people partnering together. So focusing communication on what God is doing combined with the power of social media helps the kingdom grow faster, and that's what we love about it. According to a study done by Georgetown University, more than half of people who engage with causes via social media are inspired to take further action. And that's what we want, right? Engagement. Our team has actually spent more than 20,000 hours coaching ministry leaders and missionaries over the past 10 years. And when we talk about social media, the response is all over the map. On one end of the spectrum are those who don't like it and who don't feel very tech savvy. On the other end are those who are active in social media and have asked to learn how to use it more effectively to create a culture where their partners feel, intimately connected to the impact. So I've got a poll question for you. On a scale from 1 to 5, where do you consider yourself to be with social media? Are you a newbie, observer, a regular user, engaged user, or influencer? And if you're an influencer, you would probably be the only one who know you're an influencer. maybe not. I don't know. So I'm curious to see if we have any influencers on this call or not. So I don't know how long Deb, how long am I supposed to wait for that poll?
It's up right
No
now.
influencers. Oh,
None.
man. Which is not so true. Kavina on this call, I think, is an influencer. So she says she's a micro influencer, but we got some newbies, observers, kind of like equally out. There you go. We're kind of got all kinds of people on here. So today we're going to share ideas, resources, best practices, what we've seen work with our clients. So this is by no means an exhaustive list, and we acknowledge there are multiple ideas out there how to use social media successfully in fundraising. So take the pieces that you like and are a good direction for you and begin making a plan for how to implement them.
All right, let's start with what not to do. It's brief, but it's important to tackle this area. The biggest misconception in using social media for fundraising is that it's a fast way to get funding. Now, that's not completely wrong. It can be a fast and easy way to get some money, but how sustainable is a quick fix? We want to make it as easy as possible for people to give. So we're tempted to post a link where partners can pledge because it's easy, right? How easy is that? But we want to encourage you to resist that urge, especially when your focus is ongoing partnerships. Why? Well, for starters, it doesn't actually raise that much money. You get the low-hanging fruit and maybe a couple of $1,000s in one time and gain a handful of monthly partners, but it fizzles out quickly and people get tired of it. On the contrary, we've seen that people who are asked individually are way more likely to give and to give more generous amounts. Second, this is our heartbeat. We want you to have an opportunity to create a true partnership that connects people not to a funding need, but to what God is doing, because we want them to take ownership of their part in the work. Just throwing out a link bypasses the relationship with you and the connection to impact. And it makes the focus about money. And I can't tell you the number of people who say, I don't want to talk about money. I don't want to make the focus of money. But yet, what do? They throw out a link, making it about money. So we want you to engage them around a conversation that's about the ministry, not about a link. So this relational approach creates a longer lasting partnership, and it makes the ministry much more sustainable. So where can you put a link? The best time for someone to see a link is in a direct message to the person after they've committed to partnering. If someone has to think about it, don't just follow up by sending them a link so that they can, partner if they decide to, but instead, we really encourage you to stay in the leadership of the process and wait until they confirm their partnership and then send them a link as that last separate step of the process. The second thing that we would encourage you not to do is to consistently beg for more partners. It's okay to let people know that you need partners or to invite them to pray as you seek partners, or even to ask them to reach out if they're interested, but it really should be rare. If you're always talking about funding, people are going to tune you out. In fact, the top 4 reasons that consumers will unfollow a brand on social media are poor quality of product or support, poor customer service, irrelevant content, or too many ads. Another idea that we want to encourage you to be slow to use is crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is essentially the idea of that thermometer image, but on a website. So currently the top sites are Kickstarter, GoFundMe, and Indiegogo. And while it can be useful in raising one-time funding, it's still not as effective as personally inviting people to partner with a shared purpose, developing impact together. If you're looking for long-term sustainable partnerships, crowdfunding is not the way to go.
Yeah, so just some more comments on what Deb has been talking about. I think it's really important to know that we're talking about long-term partnerships, right? So there are, and this was the not what to do section, what not to do on social media section, but there are instances where you do need to raise $2,000, $10,000 on social media for something urgent and specific. If you're really savvy at fundraising, you can use that as an entry point to engage in a long-term relationship. So I just don't want you to get confused that we're saying you're never allowed to fundraise on social media, but we're talking about specifically on long-term partnerships and just trying to get a quick fix through social media to get all these long-term partnerships. So how do you use social media for partnership development? A simple guide is, if it's easier, safer, less scary route, then it's likely the least effective route. So no matter which platform you're using, it is important to be intentional and educated. So there are 3 things that can be helpful to think about when deciding how to use social media. Your audience, so who is consuming your content. Knowing your audience will inform what kind of posts you make. The value of the content. Will it add value to the person's life? What kind of content is most engaging to them? Like we said earlier, it's okay to make asks from time to time, but most of your content should be adding value to the consumer. So 45% of people will unfollow you if the information is irrelevant to them. That's why it's so important to know your audience, because you want relevant information for the audience. The preferred platform is number 3. How does your audience prefer to consume content? For example, if most of your partners on Facebook become more active on Facebook, makes sense. If most of your partners are not on social media but have email, then you'll want to invest time in good, consistent email communication strategy. You need to learn how your partners like to consume information and do your best to communicate in that way. So we want to gauge what platforms you guys you're already using. So let's take another poll. Man, I love polls. So which of the following social media platforms do you use on a weekly basis? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, and TikTok. I think I have a number 1 guess. I'm guessing, and anyone can come in with a guess. Definitely Facebook, I'm thinking, is number 1. So is what you use regularly. I say I actually use Instagram the most regularly, probably. I consume Instagram the most regularly. I'm not going to say I use it. So
I would say those are the top 2 as well. Although I'd love to see you on a TikTok, Russell.
I am on a TikTok, but Kavina is the one who posted it.
I want to
So
see you dancing on a TikTok.
Hopefully she shows, we don't have time for me to share this, but I'm going to anyway. We're recording a video and she says, now step into, like, walk as you're talking, walk in front of the camera. And I did, and I started to talk and I fell over, like I lost my balance, had to catch myself. And I hope she posts that on the TikTok. Yes, I was right, 83% Facebook, 59% Instagram. We had 0% TikTok users here. Okay. So we realize that there are a lot of platforms we could discuss, but instead of lightly touching on a lot, we're going to break down 2 of the most popular platforms and effective ways to use them. So before we do, let's address a genuine concern. So we know that some of you are in restricted access countries. If that is you, how do you use social media? Well, we encourage you to start with your organization's protocol, talk to your teammates, and make a decision together, because it's not just you who are impacted, but it's your team and your organization. So keep that in mind as we continue. We're going to give you helpful tips that you will need to discern if you're able to use in your particular situation, and just talk about with your teammates and your organizations. Or if you have tips on it, put them in the chat for everyone to see. That'd be fantastic.
And Marianne's going to keep track of those, and we'll share them later. So let's start with the world's most popular social media platform, which is Facebook, which is true from our poll. So not only is Facebook still the number 1 social media network, but the company also owns 4 of the top 6 social media networks worldwide, including Facebook Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So whether you use Facebook constantly, or if you're new to the platform, it can be a fantastic way to connect with friends, with family, and also with partners. So 3 years ago, just 3 years ago, you guys, 1 out of every 7 people in the world had an active Facebook page. Now that number is 1 out of every 3 people, which is 2.89 billion people worldwide who have an active Facebook page. I think, a lot of people say, well, the younger generation really isn't even on Facebook, which I think older people can attribute to millennials. However, even though Gen Zers are not likely to be on Facebook, Facebook still dominates the global market, with new people gaining access and joining every year. So it's an insanely valuable tool, especially because 1.9 billion people visit the site every day, and half of those people use it daily on a mobile device. So let's talk about what Facebook is used for. Generally, it's used for mass communication. Each post is going out to the masses. So posts should be brief and ideally have a link and an image tied to them as much as possible, because that combination generates more likes than the average post. Also, a highly popular way to connect with people is by using Facebook Live, which is a video stream option that people can tune into live and then leave comments or ask questions in a chat while you're sharing. So according to Sprout Social, the time people spent watching Facebook Live has quadrupled in the past year. And Facebook users are 44 times more likely to watch live streams than they are recorded videos. So we've seen Facebook Live work really, really well when wanting to address common questions or give an update on how things are going while having an opportunity to interact with people. Some people that we've worked with have even used it to show how they're going to share the gospel and their strategy for discipleship. So imagine what that does for the credibility of their work and how it affects the confidence of their partners and their potential partners. So if you've had a successful Facebook Live event, share that with us in the chat and what you've used it for.
Hey, Kavina, if you are doing a Facebook Live, does that show up in more people's feeds than just a post? Like, will that show up to more of your friends than just a regular post?
On Facebook Live, and you guys obviously can correct me too, but Facebook Live, it goes only to your friend count, right? So on Instagram Live, it is to, if your profile is public, it literally can go to anyone in the world. And so it's more niche than any other platform. So it would just be your friends that you've chosen.
Yeah.
But I don't think it like it should notify your friends if you are doing a live.
Oh yeah, there's like an actual like notification that comes up if you're on Facebook. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's even better than scrolling through your feed, and finding something. They're actually, if they're on Facebook, they're gonna get notified that you're live. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, cool.
Great, thank you. It's also Facebook's used for personal communication. 88% of Facebook users are on the platform to stay in contact with their friends and family. Where you once had to make that long distance phone call to keep in touch with friends and family, you're now only just a click away from maintaining better relationships. And you can direct or private message someone through Messenger and even video chat through Messenger. For some people, they're more likely to respond to a Facebook message than to an email or a text message. So if you've been trying to connect with somebody via email or phone and you haven't gotten a response, or if you don't have their contact information at all, try a Facebook message. We encourage all of our clients to go through their partner list and make sure that they're connected on Facebook if that person has a profile. It's also used to create dialogue, and Facebook Live could fit into this category as well. You can also post in such a way that it solicits a conversation, like you can ask questions, you can poll your audience. You could also create a group that encourages dialogue and community, and we're going to talk about that more in just a second. But Marian, do we have any ideas about Facebook Lives?
You know what? We didn't have anyone post anything about Facebook Live ideas in the chat. So if anybody thinks of anything, feel free to continue to.
I did see a question about Instagram Live and
we'll
whether
talk about that.
Okay, got it. Sorry, jump ahead.
That's okay.
Okay, so let's look at who uses Facebook and when you should post. In the US, people ages 25 to 34 are the most common demographic. Nearly 20% of people in this group are active users, and looking at the rest of that graph, you'll see that it stair steps down as people get older. But we've seen that shift with the COVID-19 pandemic for older generations as they are trying to stay connected. So overall, there's still a fairly significant percentage of all ages over 17 that are using Facebook. So the best time to post is in the time zone that the majority of your partnership base is in. I know that sounds really simple, but when I read these and prepared the notes, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that does make sense. So 80% of the US population live in Eastern and Central time zones. So in theory, those are the best times to base a post off for an American audience. So if you're posting from Europe, but most of your audience is in the States, you'll want to be posting or scheduling it to post late in the evening for you. So it's hitting a time when it'll get the highest traffic. You might be saying, well, that's great, but I have partners everywhere. Ultimately, it's important to pay attention to the specific times and days for post engagement and visibility. So according to Sprout Social, the best times are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. So best days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Worst day is actually Saturday. So if you are not on Facebook, you actually need to be. It's hands down the best way to stay connected with the largest amount of people. But a question we get asked a lot is, do I just use my personal page to keep everything updated, or should I create a ministry page or start a group? Each of these have very specific purposes and advantages. So we want to talk more about that to help you decide which one is best for you. So personal profile, this is what most of us already have. And if you don't have a ton of exclusive content, content that can't be shared publicly, and a large portion of your Facebook friends are your ministry partners, then using your personal profile is the best way to engage with your partners. So it seamlessly connects ministry and personal life, and people can stay connected to both all in one place, making it easier for them and you. So just have a good balance of personal posts and ministry posts. Now, then there's a business page for your ministry. Is public and allows anyone to opt in or like your page in order to see more information. It tends to be an official page of your brand with primary purpose of getting information out. Some of the benefits of a page like this include having access to analytics, the ability to schedule content, having multiple administrative roles, such maybe you're a husband and wife or stateside friend, so that multiple people can have access to post or promote the work. The next is a Facebook group. And that allows you to create space to engage with your partners specifically and have a more private space to share sensitive information. A Facebook group is the best way to create community, but be mindful that Facebook still has control of any information shared and hasn't proven to be a company with the most integrity. So now don't let that stop you from sharing your life, but just know that it's a reality and you should still be careful and be intentional when naming your group. Choose something that focuses on impacting community instead of focusing on your name alone if it's possible. Private or secret groups are increasingly popular choice for ministry workers to stay connected with partners and are unsearchable on Facebook. So this allows for a slightly more secure environment to share stories, ask questions, and build a greater group community. So you might want to ask your teammates or your organization, if you're a restricted access country, if this is something that they think is a safe option for you. You know, Marianne, do we have any questions just in general coming in?
We sure do. Yeah, we have a few. First is from Jen, and she says, does the Facebook algorithm suppress link posts as opposed to image posts?
Kavina, come on now.
Hello. Facebook has been, as you guys know, changing, and Instagram has too, but I wouldn't say they suppress. And according to Sprout Social this year, like Deb said, if you actually combine a photo of your family and then like put the link to your partnership form, like it won't suppress it. So I would recommend trying that out to see if you could use photo and link at the same time. But obviously it depends on your language of your caption, because Facebook they are still their own platform. So if they don't like something you said, they can suppress it. So I would say go for it, post whatever you want, and implement link and photo at this time.
Good. Thanks, Kavina.
Thank you. Yeah, we have another one that, Russell, you kind of answered this regarding the time zones, but has anyone here done the research that will inform us the best day and time to go live? So would that be the same as posts as far as time zone goes?
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be the same as posts, because that one you'd have the most people there and they'd be notified, right, Kavina?
I would actually like put yourself in their shoes. If you're just scrolling on Facebook with a still image at work, you don't need to turn on the sound, you don't need to watch it. And so actually I would recommend when people are off work, when you're home, when you can have volume on. So it's actually not, you can post at the same time as like the most active, but put yourself in their shoes. When would you watch a live?
Okay, got it. Yeah, the sound thing if you're at work, although a lot of people work from home these days.
Yeah,
And
we
Eric,
have a couple more. Do we have time?
Why not? I love
Okay.
questions.
Okay, great. How frequently should we be posting so that our content is seen by our audience if using a personal page or a group? So their question is about frequency here.
I'm very glad Kavina's on here because she's going to answer that too.
Deb, aren't we gonna get to
yeah,
that?
I was going to say, we're going to get to
Yeah.
that. We're going to get to
Yes.
that in the next
Sorry,
section.
then no more questions. We'll just keep going. We'll get to the other question, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. So we're going to switch to Instagram now. So Instagram is another one of the most popular social media sites worldwide. As again, we saw on our poll, it was number 2. It has 2.7 billion monthly active users. And just like Facebook, their largest demographic is the 25 to 34 age range. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Instagram, it's most commonly used for posting photos and videos. It comes in all kinds of, it's really grown and lots of different ways to post videos and photos. So you've got still photos, you've got Instagram stories, you've got Reels, which is a new way to create and discover short, entertaining videos on Instagram. So you can record and edit 15-second multi-clip videos with audio and effects and new creative tools. You also have IGTVs available to you, which is a new app for watching long form vertical video from your favorite Instagram creators. It can even go up to an hour. And then IG Live is also an option with a very brief caption. So lots of different things there. And Kavina is up on all that. Occasionally, you're going to see people with 3 or more pictures and some long captions, but that's not very frequent. But becoming increasingly popular are those Instagram stories. So stories provide a look into the daily life of someone through pictures and short videos. So they're in the moment posts, which are only available for 24 hours. And 50% of all Instagram users create and view short threads every single day. It's the top method of engagement on Instagram because it eliminates the need to scroll and it provides a pointed look into what someone's about. So just this last summer in 2021, the CEO of Instagram said that Instagram will now focus more on videos, which are the reels, than the still photos. So if you want your posts to be seen by people, make reels. And this is what the question somebody asked about how often you should be posting. Ideally, everyone should be posting 50% videos and 50% photos right now. So 50% photos, 50% reels. Something that we love about Instagram is that you can link it with Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr so that every picture that you post to Instagram can post on those other sites instantaneously. And Instagram has 58% more engagement per follower than Facebook. And a big part of this is because a third of its users check Instagram multiple times a day. But more and more, we're seeing that people comment and message each other through Instagram and engage around their live video platform called Live. Remember that we feel like this higher engagement is because Instagram is image-based. And remember when we talked about how photos on Facebook get more likes? Well, Instagram is entirely photos or videos, so it's consistently engaging, which is why it draws people in to check it more often. And don't forget to make it a public page instead of a private page if you can do that. So we highly recommend getting on Instagram because it's a fantastic way to connect your team to the impact that God is making through them and because of its ease in linking with Facebook. So if you have questions about Instagram, put those in the Q&A box. And before we start responding to those, let's take another poll. I'm curious, how many social media sites do you have accounts with? Is it none? Are you 1, 2, 3, 4, or do you have 5+ accounts with social media? I have a guess. I'm going to say 3-ish for the average person. But let's go ahead and take one of those questions. Marianne, what do we have in the Q&A box?
Okay. I have one from Kayla. She says, does Facebook suppress posts pushed through third-party tools?
That's a good
Does
question.
that, yeah.
Yeah. So using like Sprout Social or Kavina, what do we use?
We use later.
Yeah. So what can you answer that question?
I think honestly, I don't know the solid stern answer to that. I wish that it wasn't the case. I've heard that it has happened, like because the the way that Facebook tracks your posting, they really can see that you are using a third party. So I would recommend for Tailored Fundraising's account, we do have later, but once a week, twice a week, I'll post every day. I'm posting manually to tell the computer, to tell the algorithm that we're on personally. So I would get on personally every single day, but still schedule things on your own through the third party.
If that's helpful for you.
Yeah.
Okay, we have got the poll results up, and it's 2. People have 2 accounts, but 3 is not far behind. Go ahead. What were you say, Russell?
I was just saying I have 4.
You have 4?
Yeah, I'm pretty popular.
I have 3. I don't use them all often, but I have 3.
Yeah.
Which surprised me because I was looking at like, what do I have? But I do. I have 3.
All
Okay,
right. So
excellent.
social media tips. In general, they're applicable to all different platforms. The purpose of social media is for connection. So social is in the name. It shrinks our global village and almost completely removes the limitations on our reach of influence. And we can use it as fundraisers and ministers across the world to connect people to the work God is doing. And as we shared earlier, encourage people to take action as well. And let's not forget that we really are still experiencing COVID, and people need to feel connected. And social media is a good avenue for that. So when using social media, it's important to create a following, people who regularly look at, like, or even comment on your posts. So use these tips for creating a following. Your goal should be to stop the scroll, they say, as the cool kids say, stop the scroll. When thinking about your content, your image, your caption, your video, what can you do to make people stop the scroll and actually hover on your post and engage with it? Because if you can't make them stop scrolling, then they'll never get your message. So include photos of faces, serious, smiley, goofy, whatever we respond, whatever, we just respond to faces. So use videos, but pay attention to the first 3 seconds. If there's no motion action in the first 3 seconds, people will scroll on by. So use extreme minimalism, one sentence in black text on a white background invites response. You might have heard this mantra on YouTube: repeat equals defeat. Keep mixing up your visuals, or you will condition your audience to keep scrolling, because if they're seeing the same kind of thing every time. So never get too consistent with your visuals to get the point across. You also need to post consistently. So if you only post once every few weeks and it's very unpredictable, people will lose interest in what you have to say. In fact, 18% of people will stop listening completely if you're not consistent. The optimal frequency is at least once a day. But whether it's once a day or once a week, the key is consistency. We know some of you may not be on social media much or even at all, but we really recommend giving it a real shot, especially while the pandemic continues. We know that not everyone can follow these consistency tips, but we highly suggest getting at least close to these numbers. In order to really grow your audience and keep your current one, you should be posting almost every day, at least in your stories. Feed posts, on the other hand, can be twice a week, but we recommend 3 to 4 times a week. Next is provide quality content. Remember, this is not a place to constantly beg for money. Whether you are providing new information like stats or new powerful stories, the content needs to be useful to your audience and can even be inspiring. Add value to their lives by challenging them with new information and spiritually provoking thoughts. You can do this by sharing other posts that have inspired or challenged you. That's a great little trick that some people forget about. Your posts don't always have to be your own. Share what others are doing, maybe even other teammates who are posting about the work or things that are happening back with family or friends that you might that might encourage others. This can be a great way to get through dry times, when you don't feel like you have a lot to post, as well as when you're having hard times thinking about, oh man, what's next? Get inspiration from others. Another side tip, start following other people or ministries who can prompt ideas on what kinds of posts you can make. Next is don't be afraid to entertain. And Kavina's taught me this. I didn't know I could be entertaining, but she's helped me a little bit. Ministry doesn't have to always be serious. You can still be funny every now and then. It's good to take what you do seriously, but it's okay to have fun too. And if you don't typically create funny material on your own, feel free to share something you saw or read that you think others will get a laugh from as well. Next, always, always, always respond. When someone comments, shares, or mentions you, say something back, or at the very least, like their comment. People will lose interest quickly if they take the time to say something and you never respond, or you respond a month later. Make them feel heard and seen, because not responding is the best way to kill your following. Statistics say that if you're not responsive, 15% of people will unfollow you. So respond to everything within a day or two, if possible, even if it's simply liking their comment. And if they mention you in their stories, always respond in the DMs, direct messages, and repost that story in your stories with a thanks for sharing. So let's see. Yeah, we have just a couple minutes if we have some more questions.
Yep, I have a question from Dan that says, I mentor teens and kids 18 years and under. So how do I post photos and updates about my ministry without first making teens identifiable, and second, not getting in trouble posting photos of a minor? At this point, we don't require teens or parents to sign any forms of a release.
It's a good question. We're all have our thinking caps on here.
I've seen an example of this situation on a certain account in ministry where they do only minor ministry youth group. I love how they some of the photos are just the hands of the kids playing basketball, or like the feet. Just keep the easiest way to keep faces out is just do objects and hands, and so you don't have to ask for permission. That's just one way. And it's artsy too. Turn things black and white, so it's like, oh, I don't know the skin color of that. Change it up.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I have another one that is in regards to a newsletter. It says, when making asks for financial partnership in newsletters, what is an appropriate frequency? Like 1 in 4. I don't know if you want to answer this now, or maybe we send.
Deb, would you say there's all kinds of variables to that?
There totally is all kinds of variables to that. Yeah, that's not an easy answer.
No. What are some things to keep in mind, Deb? Just a short bullet point.
Yeah. Well, again, remember, this is about creating relationship, and we want to attach, we want to create a relationship with people. So we don't even encourage you really to ask for funding in a newsletter. What you could ask for instead is if people are interested in hearing more, if they want to hear more from you, versus putting a link in a newsletter that says, hey, we're looking for more funding. It just depends even too, like if you're at the end of your campaign and you need that last little bit to come in, then yeah, you can go ahead and share some kind of a thermometer, or share that you're a people chart, or you're really, really close to creating a sense of urgency. Then if you want to put a link in there, that's great. So I think I just don't know what the purpose of the link. I think you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of this letter? What is the purpose of me wanting to put this link in? And is it to get easy money? Is it to get one time? Is it to do for a special gift? Is it to get monthly?
Yeah.
Is it at the end of the month? There's all kinds of variables.
Yeah. The other thing might be, it's the only way you have to contact that person. So like you're mailing, doing a physical mailing, you just happen to only have their mailing address. I can see that. And I don't think it's terrible to make an ask in a newsletter, but it doesn't need to be obviously your main source of ask for sure. So it needs to be part of. It's hard. I guess here's my answer. It's hard to answer that question when we don't know the broader plan. Mm-hmm. So if you want to hop on with Benny, we threw a link in the chat. for a free coaching session, that'd probably be a great topic to talk with him about.
Okay, and one more, a couple of people asked this, so I'm just going to throw this out there. For people that don't know how to do like editing and just using the platforms, using Facebook and Instagram and doing a story, creating a story, that kind of thing. If people don't know how to use these, is there a way for them to learn?
Google
Google.
Google it and go to the videos section,
Yep.
and somebody will show you how to do it.
YouTube
too
is the best.
Yeah.
I learned so much on Google and YouTube. In fact, my mother had an issue with her car where the locks, it wouldn't like unlock or something. I can't remember what the thing was. So I went to Google and found a video, did exactly what it said with this little tiny little plug in there, and it literally worked. And she and I were jumping up and down in the parking lot like two crazy little people. Yeah.
I couldn't get my
here
car.
I am a mechanic now.
YouTube it, and it's like, okay, wow.
Yep.
All right, let's get moving, Deb.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about some content do's and don'ts here. So we've talked a lot about different platforms and a lot of tips for posting. So let's dive into content do's and don'ts. Let's begin with how to share. So let's talk about text first. If you're going to post text without photos, we want you to keep it super duper short. So 1 to 2 sentences. Keep in mind like 40 to 100 characters if it's text, because people are not going to read it. Next, photos. So ideally, we'd love for you to share 2 to 3 short sentences for a caption that connects your partners to the image. But again, this depends on the image and what you have to share. So as a rule of thumb, use as many words as necessary to tell an engaging story and stop using them when you're no longer engaging. When you're taking pictures of people, a general guideline to follow is the fewer people in the image, the more powerful it becomes. So limit the number of people in your photos so that we can really, really see them. We want to see eyes and teeth in photos. Of course, there can be times when there's power in showing the whole room. Maybe you want to showcase the whole space for an event, or you want to show the scope of a work by taking the picture of a whole room that's packed with people in line for food. Again, that can be a great thing. But what if that picture was secondary to an initial picture, a close-up picture of a couple who was standing in line with their particular story? And as always, we just talked about this in terms of sharing pictures. We want to remind you to ask permission before you use a picture that shows someone else's face. And of course, we talked about that being particularly important with posting pictures of children. And if you use another account's photo, make sure that you always credit the original source. We're also seeing that more organic photos work effectively right now. So don't feel the need to be super professional with your photos. Throw in a few selfies and make it more personal. We also want to encourage you to use hashtags, especially when you're promoting an event or a project. So general hashtags like #leadership or #business as missions will put your content in front of people who are following or searching those tags. And some of those may end up even following you. The specific project or event tags like #Gala 2020 or #WeAreTheWorld allows others to share their experience of the event. Instagram is now looking for more specific hashtags, such as #FundingForChristians, more than border words like #fundraising. So keep it niche and be more exclusive with it. If you can keep a hashtag to 12 characters or less, the better chance that someone's going to reshare your tag. And for any post, there's a greater chance of engagement and resharing if you can add multiple single word hashtags rather than a single complex one. So for example, #missions, #Sweden, or #ESL are easy hashtags that can catch people's attention who are also passionate about those things. All right, let's switch to videos. They are a fantastic thing to upload in order to keep partners connected to the ministry. You could shoot 15 seconds of a group of kids waving and yelling thank you. Can you imagine how powerful that would be? Or a video that introduces one of your teammates to a new friend that you've started meeting with. Videos, they really help people feel like they're right there with you. So make time for them. We want to remind you, keep them short, anywhere from 15 seconds to 2 minutes. Vimeo is much easier to record and share a video message than YouTube is. Last is stories through text. So keep stories focused and short. 3 to 4 sentences keeps your entire post visible. Any longer, and you'll notice that Facebook's going to crop it by adding the words continue reading. And so if your audience has to click continue reading, they're probably not going to read it. So while sharing a story is great, and we really encourage it, we want to encourage you also to keep it really focused and short.
And while it's important to know how to share, let's talk about what to share. Okay, so your personal experiences and needs, daily life, the market, traffic, your house, your church, lessons you're learning, prayer requests, funny stories, success stories, maybe some hardships along the way. You know, this is social media. This is where people personally connect. This isn't just about your brand. Okay, so you can share your personal experiences. Next, ministry experiences and impact. When you are connecting with others, who you're spending time with, what conversations you're having, highlighting projects or events, and again, prayer requests. You can highlight culture experiences like food, people, holiday celebrations, language learning, which that can be your funny one, because learning a language makes a fool out of everybody. And teach your audience a couple of words you're learning along the way. That'd be really fun. Okay, now let's look at what not to do. Constant pleas for funding, I know we've said that, or being ungrateful. We cannot say that enough. Probably the number one fear when it comes to fundraising that I hear is I don't want people to think I'm asking for their money. So don't do it on social media. We need your help. Join now. Please give. Doing that puts the focus on money and bypasses the relationship. So ministry posts that are you focused. Okay, we don't want to do that because of what I did, this impact happened. So using the word I really just says, hey, I'm distancing you from the impact. It's not you who were part of it. It was just me. So it doesn't really help them feel like they're part of the work. Don't share sensitive information without permission, someone's name, photo, story, etc. Remember, if your page is not private, people in your country of service can see it. We don't want them to feel like their privacy has been breached. So let's see, what time is it? 1:50. Let's, we're kind of coming to an end. We're going to be answering some questions. Actually, we're going to answer whatever questions you have left. But I want everyone to go to the chat and select panelists and attendees or everyone. We just want everyone to see what you have to say. And let's reflect on what we've experienced today and answer the question, what is something in this webinar that has been helpful for you? So put that in the chat right now. We just want to see it. Everyone wants to see it. Don't be shy.
And again, too, we've mentioned social media and restricted access countries. The way that we gain information into the missionary community is by word of mouth. So if you have some resources that you found helpful in this particular area, go ahead and put those in the chat too.
Penny says videos only need to be 15 seconds. What a relief. So, wow, we got them all coming in here.
A reminder to be more intentional. That's awesome.
Yeah,
we don't just want to be throwing random stuff out there. Be intentional. Yep.
Yeah. Kayla says that they've used social media for fundraising campaigns with big asks consistently. And now realizing that's a no-no, it makes sense why their fundraising strategies haven't been very successful. So wow. I'm sorry that they haven't been successful, but I'm glad we're on the same page now. So great. So good. I'm glad, there's always something that we can take away, little nuggets.
Mm-hmm. Not giving out links until after someone's agreed to give. Excellent takeaway.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So Marianne, what questions do we have?
So we have one from Vernon that says, we are in need of a 15-passenger van for ministry, and I have been tempted to put it in a story. Yay or nay?
A few questions. Do you want me to go for this, Deb?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so answer in the chat or somehow so we can see. How much do you need? Is it like 5,000 or is it like 10,000? Or is it 20,000? I would definitely do, as you're answering that, I would definitely fundraise from individuals first. And maybe you can raise all of it with those individuals. That would be ideal, or churches. But let's say that it's a $15,000 van and you have $3,000 left to raise. I think social media is probably a really good place to go on and say, hey, we're raising $15,000 for this van. If we don't have this van, here's the impact that will not be able to happen. And we've already had $12,000 come in. All we need is $3,000. And so we're asking you to, and then make some sort of ask. So
He
Hey,
says
Russell, couldn't they-
8,000.
8,000. Yeah. So I think the principle applies, raise as much as you can with individuals or churches. Deb, what are you going to say?
I was gonna say, couldn't they put couldn't they create awareness for the van as a beginning post on social media, not saying what the amount is or anything, but just saying, hey, we have an opportunity. If we have a van, we have an opportunity to, like, here's the impact, and just kind of let people know, create awareness for what's about to happen, and then maybe then do the individual route.
Yeah. So it's not like a one and done. Like,
right. That's like the initial strategy.
Yeah.
And
Kavina,
then raise funds for.
What are you thinking, Kavina?
Got awesome point, Deb. That's what I was thinking. I don't think he needs to put a number. And I learned this from Russell too, like kind of prep them first. And if you put something up that's like, here's what we need, here's the impact, DM me if you want to sew into this this van, like let them have a private conversation with you.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. I like that. Encourage people to contact you personally. So focus on so we say that funding flows most freely when it's the only thing holding you back from impact. So, for example, I work with a ministry and they have a waiting list of kids who have gone through traumatic experiences, a waiting list for them to get into their therapy program because they don't have enough funding. So that's the kind of funding flows most freely when it's the only thing holding you back from impact. So what is not happening? Who's on the waiting list per se? And if you had that van, who would come off the waiting list? Does that make sense? So that way you can say, okay, yeah, if we had this van, our impact, these people would be impacted. Like this is how it would make a difference in their lives. If you want to make this difference in their lives with us, please DM me. Yeah, that was good. We should post that.
That was awesome.
Thank you. What else?
I have one from Lucas. So he's in Brazil and he needs to raise more funds from the United States, but 90% of his followers are from Brazil. So he asks, how can he achieve a more of a United States following?
Okay, that's a networking issue. Kavini, you're doing this. Do you have answers?
No, I'm agreeing with you. It is all about networking. You have the world at your fingertips. Like you don't have to fly to the United States to connect with people here. You just go to similar people like you who are based in the US, go through their followers, connect with them. There's endless pool of people that you can connect with on Instagram. So I encourage you to go to American ministries and then check out who's following them, people in the right mindset as you, like missions, Christians, and just don't bombard their page. I would say like a post, and then if the profile is private, send them a message and say, hey, I'm looking to connect with more people in the United States. Would you want to connect with me, or have someone that would like to connect with me?
So what if he asks the people in the States that he does know, or maybe people in Brazil that have a lot of people from the US following them?
Yeah.
If they would share one of his posts
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
encourage their followers to follow him.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if we said whose name this is, Marianne from Brazil.
I think it was Lucas. I closed it out, but I think it's Lucas.
It's
Yeah,
Lucas.
so Lucas, I think that if you're, it's gonna be like this long-term strategy. So like you're actually trying to build relationships with people on social media. So it's gonna take a lot of like that networking we talked about, DMing people, getting to know them, setting up like Zoom calls to really get personal and invite them to be part of your ministry. It's not super simple. And it's not a short-term strategy. So yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be discouraging. I'm just saying you can do it, but it's a multi-tiered approach. So if you have more questions about that, Lucas, if you want to email me at russell@tailoredfundraising.com, RUSSELL, I'd be happy to connect with you. Maybe we could hop on Zoom or something. What else, Marianne?
We don't have anything right now. Yep, I think we're good.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So we've made you all social media experts. That was the point. And man, we appreciate y'all being on here. Hey, Marianne, did we put Benny's? We didn't. But Benny's calendar up again.
Yep. I will put that in again.
Yeah. So sign up for a free coaching session with Benny. You won't regret it. And just let's figure out what's holding you back from getting funded. Okay. And thanks for joining us. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Tailored Fundraising.